What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently wrapping up this round of Deep Purple videos with a songs list. But with the other artists, just followed up with like my favorite top 10 favorite songs. I made my top 10 favorite songs for Deep Purple. We're doing Deep Purple. I think I mentioned that. COVID has my mind messed up, people. Like physically, I don't have a fever, I don't have a cough, but like there's a weird COVID fog going on. So if I kind of space out on things, that's why. Yeah, get that out of the way. Oh, so I made my top 10 favorite song list, and it's essentially a greatest hits list of Deep Purple. And my whole point in making these videos is not to like remind you that we all share the same favorite songs, but to hopefully open the door to a song that nobody's like checked out before and like expose people to new music, right? So I looked at my top 10 favorite song list, and like all my favorite Deep Purple songs apparently are the songs everybody loves. The list would look something like this from one on: Lazy, Woman from Tokyo, Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, Child in Time, Burn, Perfect Strangers. Like, there's nothing exciting or new or like, whoa, I can't believe that made the list on my list of top 10 favorite Deep Purple songs. Maybe 8, 9, and 10 as we get toward the end. So what I'm going to do instead is I went through the albums and I found a deep cut on 10 different albums that I think, yeah, deep cuts that are really, 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 really good. Things that did not appear on Greatest Hits package, tracks that did not appear on compilation packages, tracks that I don't ever remember hearing on the radio. That if those other 10 favorite greatest hit tracks did not exist, I would be more than happy to put this forward as a top 10 Deep Purple list. It's just they have a lot of really good tracks. The top 3 on this list are the 3 that also would have made the original list and aren't the 7 I already named. So anyways, that's what I'm doing right here. So yeah, that's it. So let's do my 10 favorite, for lack of a better word, deep cuts from Deep Purple. On to number 10, Hungry Days off Perfect Strangers. This is the last track off the original version of the release. Starts off with this almost militaristic before just jumping into this like just really ultra like just catchy rhythm and groove. The lyrics are all about like Deep Purple's early days. There's a reference to recording Smoke on the Water and that whole debacle about going to Montreux. There's even a line, we all came out to Montreux, but that's another song. You've heard it all before. A nice little sort of Whole Lotta Love type weird breakdown in the middle that's a little more symphonic and 80s sounding with like some keyboard stabs and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's a fun song, high energy, closes out a really strong album in a really strong way. And again, just another example of Ian Gillan's lyrics just like drawing us in with his storytelling. And yeah, we've already revisited Deep Purple's early days, like on another song that's going to be on this list, but now we're doing it again, and it works, and the music is great, and the energy is great. The band sounds like they're having a good time. Yeah, a great deep cut, a great way to end a really strong Mark II comeback album way back when this came out in the 80s. So yeah, number 10, Hungry Days off Perfect Strangers. Number 9, Rat Bat Blue off Who Do We Think We Are. This is the opening track on side B. Again, this is a perfect example of things I've talked about where like, even if you don't like sort of the song, the verse chorus structure of a Deep Purple song, at some point they're going to go into like an amazing jam or riff that like almost redeems the song. And you're like, oh, I was going to check out on that song, but no, this happened. And so now I'm engaged. But then you have songs like this where you have an opening riff, which is incredibly spectacular, just Blackmore, just like dun 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 dun, just this really really aggressive, funky hard rock riff. That is spectacular in and of itself. But then when they get to like the jam session in the middle, they kind of go into like a more Led Zeppelin sort of version. Like they just have this new riff that has a very Zeppelin-esque feel about it. And then they just go into like this long, almost crazy, like proggy type solo section with Lord comes in with some awesome keyboard action. And it just doubles down on the aggression and the funk and the hard rock. So like, yeah, you might not like the verse chorus, but there's going to be a jam in the middle. But then sometimes you really, really like the verse chorus, and then they take it to a whole other level with that middle jam. And then when they go back to like the original groove, you're like, man, this is ridiculous. And this is one of those like, this song alone, I don't understand why Who Do We Think We Are is generally like thought of as like a much, much lesser Mark II album. But like this song alone, I think is one of the funkiest, hardest. It's just like so aggressive. The riffs are amazing. The playing's amazing. The vibe's amazing. The lyrics are just your typical, not really sure what Ian Gillan's talking about. You know, there's a woman involved. There's some clever, not necessarily wordplay, but the lyrics are engaging. I'm going to keep you busy as a bee, could be, Rat Bat Blue. Whatever. Don't know what that's about. Don't know what a Rat Bat Blue is, but I love it anyways. But yeah, just a great, phenomenal song. Rat Bat Blue, lead off track on side B on Who Do We Think We Are. Definitely worth checking out. Number 8, Bloodsucker off Deep Purple in Rock. Not really sure what counts as a deep cut on this and on Machine Head since they're just such great albums. But I don't see this on any greatest hits or compilations, so we're going to count it. But this is, I think, the perfect example of how to use a riff in your songwriting. How to like use a riff as like sort of the driving force for everything that happens. It like opens up with this really quick kind of short intro riff and we immediately jump into the lyrics. There's pretty much just three verses. There's no real chorus. Though there are a couple like repeated lines at the end of the verses. But we get like this verse and then it feels like maybe things are going to like go into a solo section or maybe change gears. But then it's like things kind of get quiet briefly and then the riff comes back in and we're back into the next verse. And then we go into this solo section, and every time we think we're going to maybe like get some like a little more space for people to solo in, we go right back to this riff over and over and over again. And it's just like this weird, like, it's like being in a maze or something. I don't even know. That's not a good analogy. Maybe it is like I don't know what it's like. But it's this weird thing where we go and then we got to maneuver through this riff and then you have some freedom. Then you got to maneuver through this riff and the entire band like stops what they're doing and just goes right back into this and then we go back into this solo section. And just the way they just keep inserting this riff throughout the entire song, except for like the sort of the freedom of the verses where we just get verses, you know, and no riff. I don't know. It's an exhilarating ride. It almost feels like a roller coaster where it's like, that's, I think, the good analogy, where like you're starting to get some momentum as you're going down. You're like, yeah. Then you go, yeah, and then you just keep going into these loops and twists and stuff like that. And you rarely get like a sense of, or maybe Whitewater Rapids. I don't know. But anything in which you just keep getting interrupted by the same repetitive thing over and over again. But that repetitive thing is fantastic. So yeah, Bloodsucker. This is just a phenomenal song. Again, excellent use of a riff to just completely dominate the direction and feel of the way a song goes. And it doesn't hurt that the riff is pretty spectacular. Number 8, Bloodsucker, the deep purple in rock version, though the latter version is also pretty good. Number 7, Anya off the Battle Rages On. This is like a 6.5 minute song. It has starts off with this really acoustic, very flamenco-esque, I guess, Blackmore intro, a rare sort of acoustic intro from Blackmore, and then that goes into a pretty good like lead main riff. But then once we get into the song, really, it has this sort of propulsive drive that reminds me of something like a Perfect Strangers or a Strange Ways off House of the Blue Light. But that just this driving sort of almost symphonic like force behind it. The lyrics again involve a woman named Anya. They're a little more poetic and less storytelling, a little more sparse than some of Gillan's other stuff. I like to think of this as the third entry in the I'll say it, the Gypsy series. Sorry if you're offended by that. I'm only using that word because they use it. But I feel like it's the third song in that series, going back to the track off Stormbringer, this track off the previous album, not a previous album, but the album a couple before, Perfect Strangers, the one with the kiss. And then this seems like it's, I don't know, feels like it's like completing that trilogy. But no, it's just got a really good like propulsive drive that just kind of builds and builds and builds over the course of the 6.5 minutes, starting in that nice acoustic territory and just kind of snowballing steadily throughout the course of like its journey. I don't know. I think it's like this. I think it's kind of the centerpiece of what I think is a relatively strong last album by the Mark II lineup. I know some people disagree, but I definitely think this is a song worth checking out. Yeah, Anya, number 7 off the Battle Rages On. Number 6, Walk On off Bananas. This is probably one of the most laid back, like, but swagger filled laid back songs they've ever done. It's like 7 minutes long. Starts off with, kind of eases in with sort of some like spacey atmospherics, and then there's just this riff that's just like something like that, and then Glover drops this little bass line, and they go right into the lyrics, and it kind of keeps this just like strolling confidently down the sidewalk type groove the entire time. The lyrics are pretty much like about, I think, a relationship breaking up, but sort of the singer's kind of owning, like taking control of it. Like the first line is, if you don't like what you see, if you can do better than me, you better walk on. And then they just go back into that riff, and the whole thing just has that, you better walk on. And you just can imagine the band like strolling confidently down some boardwalk, like, you don't like what you see, man, just walk on, because we're confident about who we are. Yeah. There's also some sort of like, the lyrics are pretty interesting because they're not as cut and dry as that. There's a line about how if you don't like to fight, or something about, I don't like to fight no matter who's wrong or right, but if you want to fight, walk on, like, I just don't care. There's sort of a like, oh, whatever type attitude about it, but at the same time, I don't know. It all works together really, really well on an highly underrated Bananas album. But yeah, it's just got a little bit of swagger, pretty like leisurely pace, but at the same time not. Just a lot of confidence in this song. I think easily one of the best efforts by like obviously by the Morse era bands. In fact, this is the highest rated song I have from the Steve Morse era, is Walk On. So yeah, this is my favorite song that's he has been a part of, which is kind of crazy, right? But maybe that's how I feel. But I love the song. Absolutely, just it's a new Deep Purple sound. It's hard rock, but it's slow, methodical, swagger-filled hard rock. You better walk. And if you don't like this song and you think I'm wrong, you just better walk on, people. Just keep walking. You heard me. Number 5, The Spanish Archer off House of the Blue Light. This is on side B. This is just really driving, forceful, just kind of very propulsive song. Starts off with like one of those sort of dramatic, everybody's kind of making noise on their instruments before it jumps into like the main groove. And when we get into it, there's not really as much a riff as it's like, it seems like we're jumping into something that's already been happening for a while, and we're just kind of joining it midstream. Like, we're up here like making this noise, and then we just drop and are like off into this story about the Spanish Arch. Well, apparently it's about a relationship, but the Spanish Archer is going to bring you down. Am I supposed to know who the Spanish Archer is? Because I don't know. But again, that's part of like the beauty of Ian Gillan's lyrics, is I don't really know who the Spanish Archer is, but I don't care because the lyrics are good. And it's pretty much, you get a verse, you kind of get a reference to the Spanish Archer at the end of each verse, and then as soon as they do that, instead of going off into some weird like bridge or like changing things up, it's really just like Blackmore just drops these like little riffs, or just comes in with like this, like holds these guitar notes and kind of carries us from verse to verse to verse, but it's kind of just hitting hard and driving the entire time. But the progressions, the lyrics, just the overall vibe has this really sort of like mysterious quality. Definitely hard rock, maybe a little proggy in its construction, but definitely atmospheric. The rhythm section is ridiculous. They're ridiculously tight. Blackmore is pretty much providing so many tasty fills and like short little solos between the verses, and just like, it's just from start to finish, this just like incredibly intoxicating, just like, I don't know, man, just driving groove. And the lyrics are just great. Like, There's a relationship going on. Not really sure what's happening because the Spanish archer apparently is not a good thing. He's going to bring somebody down. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really good song. Yeah, I highly recommend you check it out on the near perfect side two of House of the Blue Light, a perfect side of music almost. So yeah, my number five, deep cut Spanish Archer, House of the Blue Light. Number four, this time around into slash Ode to G. This is off the Come Taste the Music album. This is essentially, it's like a two-part song, both parts just roughly about 3 minutes long. The first half is a gorgeous ballad, piano-based, kind of Elton John flavored ballad sung by bass player, singer Glenn Hughes. I personally think his voice sounds a lot like George Michael on Father Figure, or definitely sort of the George Michael ballad era of the 80s. That is what it reminds me of, maybe a little Spandau Ballet, but it has that sort of like early to mid 80s new wave ballady type pop, that kind of R&B poppy sound that George Michael, Spandau Ballet, a couple others did. And it's definitely unlike anything else Deep Purple has ever done. Another reason why I think this would have succeeded better had it not been under a Deep Purple label, since only two original Deep Purple members are in this version of the band. But the first half is incredibly interesting. Again, nothing like anything else Deep Purple has ever done, I don't think. And then the second half of that is this ridiculous instrumental jam that once the ballad part finishes, like Pace comes in with just this like this drum fill that almost feels like we're gonna erupt into something, but instead when the main riff comes in, it kind of like brings us down. It's like this do 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 do, like it's not lifting us up as much of it's like just taking the energy and intensifying it in this weird way. And it reminds me of the song that will be number one on this list, in that it almost doesn't feel like the riff has like a resolution to it, or it's in just some, key, or, it's like a minor key, or has something that leaves you like not feeling settled. And then the fact that they just keep toying with this riff, and then, we have like 3 more minutes of music based around this, it doesn't really it has an uncomfortable feel to it that is rewarding and is good and is like what music should make you do. It should make you feel, but it's just so like dun 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 dun. It's not a happy riff, but it's phenomenal. It's so amazing. And I want to think that like Deep Purple, like there is a universe, maybe a multiverse in which all times exist at the same time. So they were aware of the fact that like George Michael would one day record Father Figure, and they're like, hey man, your vocals on this sound a lot like George Michael. They're like, well, why don't we call the instrumental part Ode to G? And we'll give a shout out to George Michael in the title. So I want to say that somebody predicted the future right here, or was living in a parallel whatever. You understood what I was going at, right? Anyways, I think that's where they got the title, though I'm sure somebody actually knows where they got the title in this multiverse that we live in. I'm just explaining where they got the title in other multiverses, or in at least one other. But yeah, this is worth checking out. And even if like you're not immediately engaged by the ballady performance of it, Glenn Hughes's vocal performance is phenomenal. Stick around for the jam at the end, because it won't disappoint. I have to admit, early on, I was not as big a fan of the ballady part. Over the times, I've come to absolutely love it, especially knowing where it's going. So anyways, number 4, this time around, / Ode to G. Number 3, Maybe I'm a Leo off Machine Head. This song is 100% swagger. Dun, 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 dun. It's just like, it is just a hunky groove. I've said before on a video and off a video, and I will say again, I believe that Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age, Them Crooked Vultures, the Desert Sessions, Caius, was a huge fan of this album when he was a kid. Someone may know whether or not this is true. I've just always imagined it, and that he was loved Machine Head, loved this song more, and was like, I'm going to grow up and dedicate my entire life to making music that's inspired by Maybe I'm a Leo, because it's just that like hard rock, stoner rock, Desert Sessions stomp. And like, it just seems like most of what Homme does is some variation on this like drive a riff into the ground as hard as you can type thing. It's a nice little solo section in here. John Lord's keys provide a little like light poppy flavor amidst like the hard, like they're like the little seltzer on top of like this hard liquor that we're being served up here. But it's just a stomper, man. To follow Highway Star, it's almost like Highway Star is like it's like the Highway Star is like a drag race or like an indie race. You're just going as fast as you can down that road. Then after this, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna get in here and we're just gonna cruise with like dun 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 dun, a little more slow pace, but as mean, as aggressive, just a monstrous groove, man. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Not sure if it's necessarily a deep cut because I'm not sure anything on this album Machine Head is a deep cut. They're all ridiculously good songs, but if there is one, maybe it's this, and I definitely think it's worth checking out. Maybe I'm a Leo off Machine Head, my number 3 favorite Deep Purple deep cut. Number 2, No One Came, the closing track off Fireball. Starts off with just Glover on the bass. I think it's just the E just going dun 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 dun, and then they come in with this da da, just hard coming in. A lot of really good lyrics in this. Is about their early days as a band. Sort of the repeated refrain is "No one came from miles around," just talking about how hard it was apparently in those early days as some band, maybe not exactly this band, but a story about some band in their early days. One of my favorite lines, both the line itself and especially the delivery by Gillan, is this, no one came for miles around and said, man, your music is really funky. Just a lot of character in Gillan's voice, really good lyrics. Just, again, another just stomper of the bass almost the entire time, just hitting that E, just like dun, 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 dun. Every once in a while doing this like doo, 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 kind of like a walk up, apparently. Walk down or walk up. Doo, doo, I don't know. But yeah, just an amazingly forceful sort of punch in the gut to end Fireball. There's even sort of a fake ending in which you think the song's end, and they come back with a da-da before they ride off into the glorious sunset. Yeah, man, a phenomenal way to end I use the word phenomenal a lot. An incredible way. That's not as good. A hard rock and spectacular way to end a hard rock and spectacular album. No One Came. Finally, number 1, that song off Stormbringer. One of the best riffs ever in rock, if not one of the best riffs Deep Purple's ever written, and Deep Purple has a whole bunch of ridiculous, amazing riffs. It has a very, again, like, what was the other song I just talked about? The riff to Ode to G. It has a very unresolved feel about it, a very like unsettling feel about it. Just kind of comes in like, almost when it starts, it's almost like we're joining it halfway through, and then when it ends, it's like, wait, isn't there a little bit more you should be giving us? But it just has this dun 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 dun. I can't approximate it. I'm really bad at that. But it just has this like unsettling feel about it that sets up the story about this character. Just creates a very mysterious kind of just like uncomfortable type vibe, but that works in the best way possible. The vocals, I think both Hughes and Coverdale are singing on this, and so their voices kind of blend together well to just create sort of like a yearning for like help. Somebody's seeking help, like, hey man, undo whatever you've done, or I've come to you for help in this hard time in my life. But it just, the entire song, and again, Blackmore from start to finish is just killing it. I think it's definitely their most underrated deep track, definitely one of their best tracks, should have been a greatest hit. Why this isn't all over the radio, I don't understand. Everything about this song works perfectly. I don't know. Yeah, just a great, great, great song. This one off Stormbringer. That's it, people. Those are my 10 favorite deep cuts. I left a lot behind. I know it. Just like every album, like pretty much every album, the hits, if it's not a hit, it's a deep cut worthy of getting attention for. Probably left off some really good Steve Morse era things on here. I apologize for that. Nothing in the Joe Satriani era that I apologize for leaving off. Not Joe Satriani, Joe Lynn Turner off that album. Not a big fan of any of those songs. But yeah, those are my favorite. Let me know what I missed, what I forgot, why I'm wrong, all that stuff. Let me know what your 10 deep cuts are. I like to hear it because then I go and check out stuff and listen with new ears, and that's why I'm doing this, man. Spread the love of music. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, all that stuff. I'm going to take a break. My brain hurts, man. COVID hurts your brain. So yeah, but I'm okay. Anyways, thanks people. All that stuff. Peace. Subscribe. See you later.